Georgia. So you know by now that the judge down there, Scott McAfee, told Fani Willis that either she or her boyfriend, prosecutor Nathan Wade, had to go. So Fani said, well, I think Nathan's going. So Nathan got fired. All right, he's out of there because he was fooling around with Fani. It looks like on the taxpayer dime, by the way. I'm not convicting anybody, but that's what it looks like. Okay. So now this whole thing down there in Georgia, remember, this is a conspiracy case against Trump and 18 others to subvert the presidential vote in 2020 in the Peach State. Okay? It's conspiracy. Anyway, this whole thing is in chaos, but I don't know how much chaos. So I asked for a guest in Fulton County, that's Atlanta, who knows the turf down there. And Holly Waltman, who runs her own law firm, joins us now from Fulton County. So, I mean, I'm sure every lawyer is watching this case very, very closely. Fani Willis, do you know her? I mean, are you surprised about how this is going down?
Well, Bill, thanks for having me. In Fulton County, unfortunately, the taxpayers and the people here and the individuals that practice law here are all too familiar with corruption and deceit and dishonesty. And for the first time in our state's history and probably our country's history, we potentially have a prosecutor who is charged with prosecuting crimes that happen here, could potentially be facing a RICO situation, or could be on the taxpayer's dime actually committing RICO offenses while being charged with prosecuting and trying to prosecute crimes of this sort.
All right, but are you surprised? I mean, when this woman was elected, did people have hopes that she was going to be an effective prosecutor?
Certainly, we had hopes that that would happen. Her predecessor kept this office bogged down with corruption and just inefficiencies for over 20 years. We all had big hopes. And of course, prosecutors take special oaths to uphold the Constitution, to enforce laws. So am I surprised? Unfortunately, no. I think that this is a story that is told all too often here in Georgia, particularly, but also in Fulton County specifically. And I think it's a sad story. I think it's something that, if anything can be gleaned from it or taken from it, it is that individuals that don't have the notoriety or don't bring the attention to the cases like this one does have to endure this sort of treatment years.
And you feel
years
it's fairly
years.
common in some places, this kind of treatment. Okay, so do you know the defense attorney who uncovered this all Fani Willis boyfriend trips? Do you know this woman?
I do.
That was pretty good work by a defense attorney. She just blew this whole case right out of the water. It's suspect now, no matter what happens, right?
Yeah, and I think what was really interesting about the hearing that we saw a couple weeks ago is it's usually the state that wants to introduce evidence, wants to introduce their investigation to a judge or a jury. We almost had the opposite happen, right? We saw the defense trying over every objection to get all of this information for the judge to determine the outcome. And we saw the state, on the other hand, objecting and trying to be the party of exclusion, not wanting to bring in witnesses, testimony, and evidence. So it was interesting to see the two sides kind of flip. And I certainly think the defense did a much better job of the offensive attacking this sort of challenge. And I think that the state did sort of a poor job of trying to keep it out. And I think that the future jurors in this case, hopefully, were watching and saw that whole thing.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to get a jury now with all this publicity down in Fulton County. I mean, it's hard enough without all this crazy stuff. The legislature in Georgia just passed a law constraining county prosecutors. Can you explain that to us so even I can understand it?
Yeah, certainly. So in the state of Georgia, prosecutors previously have had unlimited immunity from prosecutorial misconduct, meaning no matter what they do within their job, And remember, prosecutors are charged with either taking liberty or freedom from somebody that they believe is guilty of a crime. They have previously had complete immunity from any sort of misconduct. Now, this new law would allow prosecutors to be evaluated by a panel to determine whether or not there needs to be other issues taken up and other things.
Now, Fani, that she could be hauled in under this new law?
Certainly, that absolutely is a possibility, and I think the timing of when this law passes.
Right, she'll have to. Final question: the judge could have removed Fani, but didn't, and a lot of people say it's because he's running for re-election in Fulton County, heavily African American, and Fani has made it a racial situation. And so he kind of walked its tightrope. He got rid of the prosecutor because he knew that Fani was going to fire him and not resign herself. Does that sit well with you?
So I certainly think that this judge has given a lot of thought. Any judge's job in a pretrial position is to ensure that both sides get a fair trial and also to preserve a record, because at the end of this bill, if there is a verdict, one side is not going to be happy with it. So this judge is trying to make sure that this case does not, again, start over on appeal for some sort of decision that he made that wasn't well thought out.
All right. Ms. Waltman, thank you very much. We really appreciate your expertise. We'll probably bother you again as this thing gets underway, if it ever does get underway. I mean, there are going to be so many motions, my God. But it's very kind of you to help us out. We appreciate it very much. All right, so you heard of the crew Judicial Watch, and they have filed a Georgia Open Records Act lawsuit. What Judicial Watch wants to know is if Fani Willis had any dealings with the U.S. Special Counsel Jack Smith. Apparently, the prosecutor boyfriend went to Washington a couple of times on the taxpayer dime to meet with Biden administration officials. But nobody knows what happened there. So Judicial Watch has sued to find out. It shouldn't have to be that way. The system should say this is why these meetings happen. But you know what the system is now. We asked Judicial Watch to come on the No Spin News today. They would not appear, which is not good, because they solicit money. They want donations. I'm not going to give them any money. They should come on and explain what the deuce they're doing. I don't have any beef with them. In fact, I think that the lawsuit is good. But for them to dodge and run, that's not good. Just a message to them.